Welcome to the 2023 Budget Workshop. Let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So during the budget workshop, the questions for the presentation will come from the board and from the FACT committee. At the very end, the audience can also ask some questions. And I believe everybody has received a copy of the outlined proposed budget. If they have not, come up and see Chris. He'll have a copy for you. The main difference this year is that the board is concerned about having excessive HOA increases. So we've set a goal. It's a goal. We may not achieve it, but we're trying to. The goal is we do not want the increase to be in excess of $4 more per month, which would bring it up to $340. This particular draft 2 budget has an increase of $14 a month, which would be $350. So what we're attempting to do here is see if we can find some areas of where we can reduce the expenses or increase the revenue to try and achieve that proposed goal. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chris to make the presentation of his draft. Thank you.
Good late afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen, and in the audience. Bob, where's my camera? Got it. Okay. I always have to. Bob is the director, Bob Murray, so I got to make sure I know where the camera is. Welcome. This is our first of 2 public workshops or board workshops with the Finance Advisory Committee. My name is Christopher Mitchell, the Executive General Manager of First Service Residential on-site staff. With me is Jason Ewalls, Assistant General Manager. And for today's presentation, 3 of the directors that will be joining us to present golf course maintenance, pro shop, and recreation. That would be Carl Lukasik. I always mess up on your name, Carl. I apologize. Brian Garlington, and of course, Mr. Birchfield. Mark is here. We're going to give some presentation quickly, as Bob, our board president, had said. In it, then I'm going to give you an overview. Then I'm going to go into some of the details of the budget. And those directors, their respective budget, will add input. And again, we've handed this out. This will also be on the website, ladies and gentlemen who are watching on TV, to see the first, or draft 2, where we are at within the departments and the change year over year. So let's get started. This graph, also this presentation will be on the website for those who could not join us today. This basically is page 1, reformatted a little way to give the difference between 2023's annual budget, 2022's annual budget, what the year-over-year dollar amount change is, the year-over-year percentage change, and the member monthly amount for 2023. That should be 2023 there. On it, you'll see the changes: restaurant lounge, golf course, administration planning. Again, this meeting is going to concentrate first on golf operations, then recreation. Golf operations is both the maintenance aspect of it, the pro shop, then we'll also hit some of the administrative. So again, what changes are on this handout is the same here. What we're looking at, as Bob had said earlier in his opening comments, we're looking at a 4.33% change, which is about $14.56 on this draft 2. So let's go dig a little deeper into some of this. Now I want to focus on kind of the categories that we're looking at.
Remind all of them that what they see up on the screen matches the handout, the front page is accurate.
Yes, that, so Jason, go back to the previous one. So that, again, this is reformatted. This is exactly what you're seeing on page that we handed out that will be also on the website, showing what it is for 2023, what 2022's budget was, the difference. That's what that is. Now, the second one here that we're going to go for the next one, Jay, is the expense by category. So it kind of digs into what are the drivers. First, we looked at the department, but what are some of the drivers that are in it, like salaries and labor? Those are the labor and benefit costs. Repair, maintenance, supplies, outside services. Those are where we use outside contractors. Cost of goods sold, or anything that is sold in the restaurant or in the pro shop. Utilities, then of course, our bulk cable internet, and our repair and replacement contribution. So you see some of the biggest changes year over year in this budget. Labor, the cost of labor and the benefits. That's about 11%, and this is for all departments within First Services on-site staffing. The next one that is a big change year over year is outside services. And so we're going to dig into a little bit of some of the key changes that occurred with those. So, next slide. Okay, the salaries and benefits. The main reason the wage and benefit increases impacted all departments. The largest increases that we've seen have been in golf course maintenance and the food and beverage operations. This is the reason because of the job market is still very competitive for service industry. As Birch will talk about, there's not a line of people anxious to start driving mowing equipment on the golf course. So to retain, to recruit, the wages were adjusted. Also in food and beverage, you might recall in 2021 that the board at that time raised the starting pay to $16 an hour in an attempt to recruit and retain. Well, the market has moved on from that as well. Cooks that normally would be at a $17 to $19 range are now in the $20 to $25 range.
Quick question. Can you, you're saying that we have an increase of $582,281 in salaries and benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How does that compare to the overall increase that you're asking for?
We would give that breakdown. I don't have that detail in front of me.
Would you believe it's about 95%?
No, because there's other costs that are in it. The insurance, workers' comp were big impacts on the labor. When we worked with our human resources department, those were some drivers. The wages increase year over year were 3 to 5%, but the rest we've seen some large increases was the benefits and workers' comp. But I can provide that to detail. Jay, if you can write that note down. Jay's going to be my note taker as well. Or we won't get through this meeting fast enough. Sorry, I write too slow. Also, the next slide. Now, repairs and maintenance. One of the main reasons we see a decrease in this line item, though, is that the water feature maintenance, that was a large driver for the removal of that item in our budget. As we expect water restrictions to continue in 2023, this item has been removed from the 2023 budget. Also, a reduction in food and beverage repairs. These are the repairs to different equipment, different items within the kitchen. If many of you are bakers or like to cook, you realize if you're doing that a lot, you put a lot of hours on the machines. They sometimes break. And so it's the constant, make sure it's fixed, keep it up and running, and also our preventative maintenance program. But within golf course maintenance, the repairs and equipment, just not only on his equipment, but on the irrigation, has also been a driver to increase. And so though we had some decreases in maintenance for the water feature, there have been an increase to offset that with golf course maintenance, and Birch will get into that a little bit later in his portion of the presentation. Next item. Supplies. That's an increase over year. Main driver here, increase in chemical and pesticide costs, have really impacted golf course maintenance. Recreation activities drove planned supply costs as well. One of the things that Cara has seen, she'll talk a little bit about it, is that the pandemic hopefully is, knock on wood, behind us, and people have started coming out and wanting to do things, wanting to have activities. So this was a change in that budget line item to reflect that. And also in food and beverage, costs are expected to decline for supplies. Chef Chris and Thomas are doing a great job reducing it, but paper and plastic items, those little containers that you do to take away your leftovers, those continue to increase, and so there has been an issue with that. But overall, the increase is a 5.75 increase of $45,897 year over year. Outside services. Now again, this is a large increase for computer support. So what is computer support? That is the IT services for a third-party vendor, West Coast Networks, to, if something goes wrong with the server, something goes wrong with one of the desktops, that is the support we use. Also, credit card processing. Now, I know we're working on that to adjust that, but that has been an increase because with the new system, there are some new costs with that to maintain, especially when we go to the mobile platform. Golf course maintenance, contracted labor expected to increase. These are the areas that service the drought-tolerant areas of the golf course. And then our HOA insurance premiums, based on discussion we had with our broker, those are looking, there should be an increase. Unfortunately, the time the insurance companies submit their final costs for 2023 is November and December. We have to finalize this budget in October. And so this is where we do our best guess that we can of what we think, working with our broker, the premiums will be. Sometimes we're right on. 1 year, I know that I was here during my 6-year period, the increase was higher than we had even planned. Also, to offset some of these increases, we have a reduction anticipated for community patrol services, reduction of street cleaning, and the elimination of pool monitor services. That helped to offset some of those increases. So total increase is $173,932, which represents a 5.04% year-over-year change.
If I could comment on that just for a second, is that we're going through an RFP, with the community patrol, and it appears that we haven't decided which one we're going to take yet, but it appears that there will be a significant reduction in that of between $100,000 and $160,000 as to what's projected in the budget. So there will be a decrease there.
Talking about cost of goods sold now, that's an increase year over year. Main reason, food commodity prices have gone up. I'm sure if you're shopping at the store, you've seen that. The turkey sandwich that would normally be very inexpensive has started going up. Eggs, that is impacting our food and beverage operations, as well as there's an impact to Brian's budget for his products that he gets, and he'll talk a little bit about that during his presentation. But the cost increases for the cost of goods sold is in line with our planned food and beverage revenue increases. It's a percentage set, so as those revenues increase, that percentage increases within the cost of goods sold. We're looking at a 10.73% increase year over year, which equates to $91,802. Next item, utilities. Now this is a little deceiving. Right now it's a decrease. Some of the main reasons, there are some increases in natural gas and refuse that were offset by some small reductions in water and electricity, but we're still working with the city of Banning on potential utility cost increases that they may have for next year. And so we are working on that. So this number we expect to change a little bit. Right now it's just showing a negative 1.59 decrease, equating to $32,000 roughly. But this line item will change based on some of the talk we've had with Art Vela, and we're trying to get a meeting with Art to talk about some of this and some of the other proactive measures they're taking with the water restrictions. Next, other costs. So here, this is a decrease year over year. We're anticipating a decline actually in bad debts and taxes that drove down this category. We had a higher amount for bad debt based on what we've seen for this year. We're going to lower our target. Also, the reclass of IT support agreements, those used to be listed under taxes and licenses. The support agreement is with Club Essentials, which is the POS platform we're running off of. We reclassed those costs to outside services under that IT services that I previously discussed. That led to this line item dropping down 33.32%, a decrease of about 102,000, 103 roughly. Bulk cable internet agreement. Now, this is based on a contractual increase with Spectrum. Not only is there an increase in the main fee, but there's taxes related to it, special taxes related to the cable agreement. I think there's franchise fees, other things that are involved with this. So we're looking at a 3.68 year-over-year increase in the budget. It's about $84,000. Okay, the repair and replacement fund contribution, an increase from 2022. Main reason is we're using the reserve study from 2022 and using that contribution rate. Right now, 2023's report is currently in progress. I know the board and the FAC have received some of the projected projects that we are going to work on for 2023 and some items that we're going to be deferring. So this number may change as well based on the results of that 2023 reserve study. Okay, so let's look now at some of the departments. So first I'll go over a couple of things that year over year we looked at in Brian's department. He'll chime in. Overall revenues are projected to increase. Now this is based though on an increase in green fees. This has not been finalized. We're still working on that. If we're not going to raise fees, that will change the revenue budget. Right now, our Pro Shop sales are trending very good. Brian seems to know the styles that work best here for Sun Lakes and clothing, shoes, and it's been received very well from the membership. And I know the board has talked about expanding some options of other things that could be carried in the Pro Shop. He'll talk about that a little bit. Whoops, sorry about that. That was not a mic drop. Major expense increases within operations are due to labor and benefit costs within his department. Also, the cost of goods sold is increased based on product revenue increases, and Brian will go into some of those other increases. So with that, Brian, why don't you give us some more feedback on this, please?
Does this need to be up here?
You can, but whatever you feel comfortable with.
What do you?
So talk about, I think the green fees were one area, and that is actually, if you go to the slide next one, Jason, I put this is in your pamphlet. So this is from 2019, that we use as a base for pre-pandemic, and then what has happened after. And you kind of see where annuals have been for both courses and the exec, and where the daily rates have gone, or have stayed at in some cases. And so this is some of the items that we are looking at to say, well, is this the right fee? Is there an opportunity that we could increase those fees? Now, Brian has done some analysis, and so Brian, why don't you talk about what you...
Yeah, so thank you, Chris. I did some analysis. We wanted to take a look at what are comp courses in the area. Now, I say area because it's a little different than 30 minutes down the road where everything's 3-4 times as high as here. So comps in the area. Competitive courses, for example, I'm not going to list them all, but we're talking, Tuckwit, Oak Valley, even Redlands was included in that, Yucaipa, Saboba Springs. So I did an analysis of green fees of competitive comps in the area, and a lot of them are charging anywhere between $60 and about $75. That includes the golf cart. Most places won't even allow you to walk if you want to walk, but that includes our golf cart. So you can see here we are $35 for a homeowner rate, which you obviously deserve that because you pay homeowners dues. And if you belong to the Tuckwit, you don't chip into any HOA that gives money to the golf course. So I can see that why that's so low. However, it needs to probably increase a little bit because our costs have increased on the golf course, which Mark, you keep hearing that pesticides, fertilizers, everything is increasing, and if we keep the same rate, we're just losing more and more money. So we were thinking 3% increase. I actually disagree with Chris. I think it could be a little more. It's just a matter of what obviously the board is going to vote on this, but I think we can get a little bit more than a 3% increase considering we didn't have a raise to our green fee last year.
And Brian, if I can comment on that, I'm looking at the information you have here. We haven't had a raise since 2020. It's been the same price for a member, $35, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And if you look at those courses as a golfer, if you look at those courses that you're talking about, they can't hold a candle to our golf course. So,
It is true. I mean, as far as the shape of the golf course is in, and really, we got an excellent golf course as far as playability, as far as, I don't know, how more, it's championship golf course, and it reflects that. Plus, we have another golf course, which is just as good for the short game as the executive golf course. So I think we can push that number up more than the 3%. And like I said, we'll be able to increase. I think we can go to, put on a limb here, but $38. I think we can go that, and that's an 8% increase, the $38.
So you're recommending that the resident rate go up to 38?
Correct.
And also the guest rate go up?
I think the guest rate should go up to 50.
Do you anticipate what sort of income will be, or revenue will be generated as a result of your recommendation being followed?
Well, it's going to be difficult because you see, once you raise that daily rate, then all of a sudden somebody might decide that they want to transfer over to an annual rate because they do the math. Everybody here says, "Well, I don't care. No." They do. Everybody does the math. They want to know how many times a week it's going to take for me to golf to become an annual golf member. I mean, it's logical.
so I would ask you, what would be for the highest benefit of the golf operations to have more pay and play or to have more annuals? How's that for putting you on the spot?
To be honest, more pay as you play.
Okay.
That would be the key because you figure every extra round that an annual member pays, that's a lower dollar amount that they're getting per round. So I think, you know what, you either have lower daily fee and more annual members. I think the overall advantage would be to have more annual members. And the reason I say that is because that's people that are more engaged into the golf. And so therefore they're more likely to buy merchandise,
Bring a
join
guest.
clubs, bring a guest, versus just pay as you go.
Do you recommend that the annual rate remain the same?
I do. We increased it last year. While we were doing that bunker project, remember we kind of told everybody, bear with us, and we were out, 3 months, not playing a full golf course, roughly. Yeah, roughly 3 months. If we did increase it, I would suggest the 3% rate to counterbalance any as far as your pesticides, just to help out the golf maintenance department. And we're talking, $75 a year? That was that 3%. I think we were talking about $75.
What about the driving range, the cost on that?
I think we just keep it the same. We're doing really well with that. It seems very, a lot of people are using it. It seems like if we do increase it, then all of a sudden I think we're not going to sell as many, and I think we'll make the same amount of money. I'd rather see more people using the facility rather than increasing the price so much somebody may not want to hit a bucket of balls that day.
Speaking about using the facility, what is the utilization that we're looking at right now in the championship? What for?
So I did, I don't know if it's a study, but I looked at, we're roughly utilizing, now this number is based on actual rounds, not tee times. Okay, because you have a tee time that you can have 4 rounds in, right? Four rounds. Well, you're not going to fill every single one of those to 4 rounds. You're going to have twosomes, threesomes, and foursomes going out. So this is a kind of a generalization. So what I did is I took every month that we had, how many rounds we can get in, and that's total rounds, not tee times. Total rounds, because like January, for example, we can roughly between the hours of, and since January is a time when we start at 8 o'clock in the morning, from 8 o'clock until 2 p.m. we can get 208 rounds in. From,
That's assuming it's not raining,
that's
or-
assuming it's
okay,
not
so
rain, that's
in a best-case
assuming
scenario.
every single round has, or every single tee time has 4 players in it. I mean,
208 rounds for the whole month?
208 per day.
Okay.
208 per day, depending on how many days. So you're looking at 6,240 available rounds. Now that's if we filled every single tee time with, which is unrealistic, very unrealistic. But so that utilization from what we actually did. So in January of 22, we actually did 2,227. So we had 6,240 available rounds. We did between the hours of 8 and 2, and we did 2,227, which is a 36% utilization.
But I want to ask you a question about that. You said that you didn't want to raise the rates on the driving range because you were afraid if you raised the rates, people would not want to hit a bucket of balls. And yet, you seem to be perfectly comfortable with raising the rates for the daily members. It seems like you're talking out of 2 different sides of your mouth. I don't want to raise the rates over here because I'll drive people away, but I'm going to raise rates over here and hope I get more revenue.
I don't think I'm going to be driving people away. I'm hopefully driving them into an annual membership.
Not if I'm talking about the driving range, okay?
Yes.
You think that raising it from $35 to $38 is going to drive them into an annual membership?
Well, if you go through and look at all the facilities that charge for range balls, you're generally not paying more than what we're paying for range buckets.
And just from a
You know,
golfer's,
it takes $3 for a half bucket of balls, $6 for a large bucket.
Okay.
And so I think that's very fair. And like I said, if you increase that, I'm afraid that you may not sell as many range cards, you may not sell as many tokens, whereas in the golf,
yeah.
you're not going to scare anybody away moving the needle $2, $3. They're going to either go, A, it's too much money and I want to go into an annual membership because I play enough golf, or they're going to pay the $38. Somebody is not going to decide whether or not they want to play golf for $3. That's my opinion. I mean,
Anything else?
yes.
While he's doing that, can all of you in the fact please check your mics and see if they're on? Thank you.
You're sharing, Harry.
I had a couple of questions, if that's okay. You talked about January utilization. What about the rest of the year? Is it similar?
Yes, it's very similar. I've done it from January. Well, I started actually September 2021. So I did September, October, November, December of 2021. Then I did January through August of 2022. And the lowest utilization is in December, 25%. Roughly, everybody goes on holiday. They go visit their sons, daughters, kids. It's cold, so that's our lowest utilization is in December. We go up to a 38%, which is kind of strange to me, what November of 2021, we had a 38% utilization. Don't know why. Maybe we had, 30, how many in November? We had 30 days of excellent weather. Of maybe we had, the temperatures are great. But it was anywhere, what the average was anywhere between 31 and 35%.
Is that typical of other golf courses in our area?
Well, public courses, no, they have more utilization because they have a bigger pool of people to draw from. It's typical of country clubs, of a private country
private
club.
golf
It's
course,
very,
that's
very
typical.
typical. You find in most private country clubs, you are busy from the morning till about roughly noon. And then after that, it's hit or miss. And a lot of country clubs, and somebody might hang me at the tallest tree if I mention this, but they do outside play as well. So that's how they make up their budget, by utilizing outside play. Now, do they say, we're going to open up the floodgates and get the general public out there? No. What they do is they do little mini outings, especially in the desert, because the desert's a resort destination. You have everybody in the winter months coming down to the desert. And I'm just going to use an example of when I was at Bermuda Dunes. I would get a call once a day, probably, from another pro asking, hey, I've got a member in your area that are going to be down there for the week of January 15th through the whatever. They'd love to come play your golf course. Do you have room? And I said, oh, sure, we've got room. How about 1 o'clock for, and I'd charge them $175 a round. So that was a very good way to increase your revenue. Not only were you increasing your revenue on the golf course with the green fee, but you're also getting maybe a little bit of merchandise sold out of the golf shop. Maybe you're getting a lunch or a dinner and cocktails in the afternoon after their round. So there's all that incremental spend that goes along with having outside playing. Now, is that what I'm recommending here? No, that's not what I'm recommending here.
Why not?
Why not? Because I think everybody knows why not. It's just I'm going to let the board make that decision on the direction of where the club wants to go.
I think Brian's afraid of tall trees.
I'm afraid, yes. Now, you give me enough rope, I'm eventually going to hang myself.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Are the annual memberships increasing? Have they increased over the last few years?
Yes, they have. They have. We increased it $100 last year, from
No, I don't mean that.
$2,400 to $2,500.
I think he means participation.
Oh, in the annual memberships? Yes, we have a slight increase. However, we are finding we were roughly about the same as last year. We didn't gain anybody, but we didn't lose. So what we gained or lost in people moving and no longer playing golf maybe anymore, we gained in new memberships. I'm predicting we're going to roughly about do the same. We have a lot of new members actually that are, I think you're finding a lot of younger people are moving into the community.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering.
And so you're finding they're playing more golf. However, they're maybe not buying annual memberships because they're still working. So.
Are there programs that are targeting the younger golfer, the more casual golfer?
Well,
You do the Get Ready Golf. You might want to talk about that.
we have those programs, but not an annual membership program for those. But we do offer, especially to those just moving into the community that are looking to maybe take up golf but don't know where to begin. We have a great program called Get Golf Ready, and we seem to get every class that we hold, it's a 5-week program, we seem to get 2 or 3 new golfers that are actually starting to play and starting to get serious.
Yeah, well, that seems to me to be the target for this community, because I think the community is changing to where, like you said, more people are working, they're younger, but the $2,500 or the $2,400 is a lot of money for them.
Sure.
I think it's kind of understanding the demographic of the typical resident of Sun Lakes.
Sure.
They're not, in my opinion, typical country club people. They're working people still, most of them.
Exactly.
New residents.
I had one last question. Does the budget include a new hire to replace Alex?
Yes, it does. It does. We
That-
actually,
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say that there is an increase because that position of first assistant in the market has gone up. It's one of the reasons Alex left. And so there's that adjustment as well in this budget.
yes, finding employees that are, I think my, check is on. Finding employees, as you've probably, this is like a broken record, it's very, very hard to find. Finding that specialized employee is even harder. I went through, not only did I go through our human resources department, who go through Indeed, and I went through the PGA of America, through the career services, and I got obviously more qualified candidates through the PGA, but a lot of them were candidates that weren't even close to being qualified. We would have, on one hand, we would have the person that can do the back office stuff, which isn't like super hard or anything, but they didn't have the teaching experience. Then I find the people that have the teaching experience, but none of the management administration experience. And that position requires, really, I want that person to be me when I'm not there. And finding that person is very difficult. I actually, keeping my fingers crossed, I've got a candidate that I'm interviewing tomorrow that was one of my top candidates for the position, and like I said, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because we're very close to getting that hire.
Any parting words?
I didn't mention anything about the shop.
You did not.
Did not. Well, the budget in the shop, as you can see, we killed it from last year. I was a little conservative last year. I'm not going to lie. But I didn't know how things were going to go, really. But with the support of the community, it's been awesome. We have just been killing every month as far as our numbers. I don't think we've had a down month this whole year so far. I think we beat budget as far as revenue and had better cost of sales or cost of goods this year than we've had in a long time, because I've checked the records quite a few years back. So that is very promising. Now, the budget is reflecting next year we've got a slight increase in revenue. I think we're going to be pretty much with the recession that we've begun, that we're going to be kind of flat in that kind of respects, but I am expecting a little bit of these cost of sales to go up, which Chris mentioned earlier. My shipping, you wouldn't believe what I'm paying for shipping for items. It's become to where I can't really do a special order item because like when I order, I do my ordering 6 months ahead of time. You got to do that for the seasons. And when you get your order in, say a collection of a certain company, you're getting in maybe 24 pieces of something, your shipping is divided between those 24 pieces. And somebody comes along, and I've sold the extra large, and they come in and they say, well, I want a large in what you have right here. Okay, you special order that, you're going to get hit with anywhere between $15 and $20 shipping for that one item. So everything that you were making in the cost or in the gross margin in the item, you are now no longer making. So it's almost to where we don't even want to do special orders because of that, because the shipping is just getting out of control. Also, my range balls, you'll probably see a huge increase in the amount of what it costs for range balls. Now, range balls went from where I was getting them for $5 a dozen delivered, now they're $7.50 a dozen delivered. And we order 1,000 dozen, so you can see the increase in the cost of our range balls. That is just one item I'm talking about. Everything has a higher cost associated with it, but yet I cannot pass a lot of that on to the member, because then we're going to be at a point where they don't buy because it becomes too overpriced. So now we got to there's a fine line. You got to dance you got to pretty much feel what the member's willing to pay for that piece of clothing or that golf bag or that. One of my manufacturers, the golf bag went up from went up $50 in wholesale price for the same bag. Ping golf clubs, they had an increase of their driver from $500 to $550 in 1 month. So the suppliers are now passing that increases what they're paying for shipping containers, for all their constraints or what they're having issues with, and guess who's paying it? The wholesaler, and then eventually the buyer, right? So we're going to continue to work hard and try to find. I like to definitely mix in those special buys. I think if you know me, you can come into the shop at any time and you can find where I've gotten these special buys from, because I pass it on to the member. We're going to still look for those to help with our cost of sales or our cost of goods. We're doing more demo days to basically, so we don't have to house as many hard goods actually in the shop. We can just order directly off those demo days, so that keeps our inventory levels low. That helps our cash. We're also thinking, the board I know has maybe thought about bringing in tennis merchandise. And so maybe thinking down at the North Course, we can, with a relatively small spend, getting some slat wall up, that we can actually maybe have some room down in the North Pro Shop to carry some tennis stuff.
And pickleball.
And pickleball, I'm sorry.
And bocce.
And pickleball. But, I don't expect to make a ton of money doing that, but one, it's also a convenience for the member to be able to come into and shop and spend their money with the club they belong to, instead of going and spending that at Pete Carlson's or what have you.
Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind for our next workshop to,
Now that we have your attention.
if you wouldn't mind for our next workshop to come up with an approximate number as to the increased revenue based upon the resident rate and guest rate increases? Increased revenue, what you're projecting due to the rate increases for the resident and the guest. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to move on to golf course maintenance. This is Mark Birchfield's area. Several major items that have increased year over year. Again, labor and benefit costs are predicted to increase. The board had approved pay adjustments in 2022 to just the golf course maintenance staff, again, to help with retention and recruitment. This will cause an increase in this line item for 2023. Repair and maintenance has gone up. Again, equipment repairs, irrigation repairs. Over the last 2 years, we've seen those line items increase.
Question for you. You're saying that it's gone up, but I look at your repairs. You got equipment repairs went up $4,300. Irrigation repairs went up $6,300, and pump repairs went up $400. Are any of that going to be in reserve activity?
They're small enough that they're not. These are little heads, little solenoids, and these are under the threshold. They're just, at 10 go out. We're not pushing those through reserves. Okay, continuing golf course supplies, as I talked earlier in the intro, chemical and pesticides have increased, and I'm sure Birch will talk to you similar horror stories that Brian's going through with his supplies. Birch is feeling as well. And then, as I said earlier, golf course outside services are increasing due to vendor cost.
Who would that be?
That is projected with Artistic, and then there's another one that you use for the water, the lake maintenance. And so
Do you have a contract with somebody for lake maintenance?
we do have a contract with lake maintenance, yes. And who is that, MBI or,
No, it's bioaquatic.
oh, BioAquatics, sorry.
Is that shown in the budget sheets?
That's in, under that line item, outside contracted services.
What's the line item number for that? The GL code.
15500 GC.
Say again?
15500 GC contracts.
So that's in it, that category includes both
Yeah.
the landscape and the water, okay.
Okay, so Mr. Birchfield, if you can provide some insights into what's happening.
Can you hear me okay? I can't hear myself very well, so. You know what, Chris has talked about the main drivers of my department, which is not exclusive to my department. It's like a broken record that you're hearing across the board. Labor, supply and demand of parts, aging systems that we want to maintain rather than try to pull up the bulk money to replace in the reserves. And I think that the largest things for me this year, the biggest concern for me, has been my labor. We have a very skilled group of people here that have got well over 20 to 30 years experience here at Sun Lakes. They're being purged by small landscape companies because they want the most qualified people. And the most qualified people in our industry are working on the golf course, more so than anything in landscape. The people that we have here that are mowing and doing those things are operators. But when you talk about the skill of the spraying of chemicals, the irrigation system, the drainage system, working in the pumps, this is skilled labor above. So when people are looking for good employees that have the knowledge, they're going to the golf course. They're purging through the golf courses. Right now, the landscape industry is flourishing, but they're struggling for labor as well. And I am trying to keep my labor. The other thing that I'm fighting right now is all the warehouses going up around Banning. These people or these companies are paying a lot more money per hour with basically unskilled needs. So I've just been struggling all year maintaining labor, keeping my skilled people here, and trying to make sure that they know that this is a place for them and not somewhere else. And so we try to run the department.
Just, Mark, didn't we just give you a raise, covered the last half of the year and already into 2023?
Correct. We did, and that's reflected in this budget. And that has helped retain those staff. But as I said in my opening comments, there's not a bullpen of people out there that desire to drive golf course mowers in this area. And frankly, I would say same problems happening in Coachella Valley. I've talked to those superintendents. You can talk about immigration reform and allowing visas on that. That's one thing that, and it may seem, oh, that's not going to happen. What are you talking about? That actually is something. If you look at what happened in, was it 90 or 86, where the United States government allowed green cards, there was an influx in golf course maintenance workers, and those workers who had those green cards, took advantage of that program, are in the retirement stage of their career. There's no backfill. There's no other program out there where people are just dying to do this work. And so what you have to do is raise those wages to recruit. But we are still facing challenges. And you know, you have an Amazon warehouse, $20 an hour to just make sure that you get your dog food and your shampoo. All I have to do is pack it in a box, tape it, go. And we're seeing that. And we're also going to see, if you've been paying attention to the news, Governor signed a program, the Fast Food Act, or whatever it's called, to form a 10-person committee to look at raising wages for fast food, potentially up to $22 an hour. And that has an impact on a lot of the association's staff, because they can just give you the Big Mac, there you go, you're on your way, I just made $22 an hour, no hassle. So these are things that are on the horizon, those dark clouds that we saw outside, Jason. Right now, those dark clouds are on the horizon, that there are some concerns within the industry of HOAs, restaurants, but also golf course maintenance. That's a big thing. We're not alone. We are not alone in that.
So if I can interject, we have an aging irrigation system, and I think our skilled irrigators are doing a really good job working on it. It's an everyday task. My fear is losing that high-skilled person. Also with our equipment, we're keeping our equipment together the very best we can. We've got skilled mechanics. Golf course mechanics are not automobile mechanics. They're completely a different bird. So the skill level is much higher and much harder to find in the open market. My pool for laborers is mainly ex-farmers, people that have come from farmland, ranches. Well, a lot of those people, like Chris was saying, come up from Mexico. Those opportunities are eroding. People are not working on farms as much as they used to. Marietta, Hemet, all those outlying areas of Paris, the farms are going away. So even though we have a labor pool, the skill level that's coming in right now on the bottom half of my crew at the entry level is horrible. I can only tell you that we spend the bulk of our training on safety and how to fix what they break. And so the elder veterans on my crew mentor, and we have to do that in order to keep it intact and keep the cost down. So looking forward into our irrigation system, we raised that because the parts are getting more expensive. I do everything I can to buy reconditioned equipment, not full price. Don't buy the big bulk box and say you're saving 10%. No, I go after rebuilt stuff that's been reconditioned because that's where we're at. We have an aging system, and the system to go out and throw a lot of expensive high-end brand new parts is probably not the most economic way to go at it. So
Are you identifying in the reserve activity when you have to buy something that's a reserve item that you're buying reconditioned equipment?
Nothing in the reserves right now, but what we do have in the reserves coming up are irrigation satellite clocks, which I'm getting some information on that right now. But that's really merely replacing the oldest clocks that we have on the golf course that should have. I wish.
So what are you buying that's reconditioned?
So that's going to be your small tools. That's not your big vehicles that you're doing. Your small tools, equipment, the cherry picker. Sorry, for removing an engine, taking it out. I forgot. There's a technical term. We call them cherry pickers. I get in trouble for what I use as when I was a kid doing mechanics. Different, but nonetheless, it's small tools and things that are repurposed. We're not talking about
You went
a
from
big.
3,800 to 7,000 with small tools.
Well, right now, Dan, we're faced with the 2023 law that's been passed by Governor Newsom that we have got to start changing all of our small gas engines out to electrical lithium. Where a weed eater might be $350 to $500, they're going up to $1,200 a piece. And some of them are interchangeable between a weed eater and an edger, but these are the kind of things that I'm facing right now that I don't know exactly where it's going. It's being changed. It's very fast in this because he's just pretty much passed this over the last 8 months. And so there's a lot of unknowns right now in the small equipment. But what we did, we used to have this in reserves, Dan, but we took it out and put it into operations because most of this was under $5,000. So I'm seeing more cost and more repair parts because we're trying to keep some of this gas stuff alive so we can.
We
try to keep
agreed,
expenses-
Chris and I agreed when we defined what was going to be in reserves. If it was less than 2 years and less than $2,000, it would be operational repairs. If it was $2,000 or more and longer useful life than 2 years, it would be a reserve item.
And these may be going, with these changes in the law, these may be ending up right back in the reserves.
And that's
Okay,
per-
I have no problem
yeah,
with that.
Yeah, that's per unit almost, so you're almost there on that threshold per weed eater or blower that's coming. Now, I can't say that's exactly where it's at because as they start manufacturing and they start producing mass amounts of this and there's more successes than failures, I think the prices will come down. But right now, they're kind of trying to figure it out. And so I don't know what's coming on that. But really what I'm trying to do is maintain what we've got, the tools that we have, and trying to buy the parts as much as I can per order. So like Brian was talking about buying shirts and so many extra large, so many mediums. I buy my parts. I don't have a warehouse of parts. I don't know what's going to break tomorrow morning. So I have to buy parts individually. Shipping, what I'm seeing, has been the most atrocious change in my pricing. I've bought products that almost the product was cost more to ship than the product. And it just appalls me when I see it. So these are unknowns that I think, and I think it's a modest look at what I think it's going to be and where it could be. So I'm not saying blue sky. We always try to do our best to get reconditioned parts and things like that can save the bottom line, especially when we don't know how long we're going to keep it there. We just don't know. So there's a lot of change in equipment coming right now because of all the new laws, and we've got to embrace ourselves. Right now, equipment just on a whole is 6 months to a year out if you're to buy a piece of equipment. So people are saying if you want a piece of equipment in 2024, you need to order it by 2023. And that's pretty much carts, mowers, anything like that, golf bags. So we're dealing with supply and demand issues and shipping and supply. And that drives the prices up to unknown numbers, it seems like, because it's always sticker shock when we get the invoice, or per se when we do a large order of parts and they individually kind of hit you. The golf course supplies are the chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides. I know we all heard about what was happening with the natural gas resource that has been not of supply of late. It's diminished. This is what we make fertilizers out of. We use that product, that petroleum, in order to manufacture and melt and make the processing the fertilizers. Well, a $25 bag of fertilizer last year is now $60, just for a bag, depending on what you're getting. Again, I'm looking at my budget in a way that I'm taking advantage of everything I can in the market to save cost by buying product that's been in the warehouse longer than it should, by not ordering what the trend is, what the salesman wants to sell. I know what this place needs. I know the components of the minerals that it needs. And so I go that route. I know what we can do. We have saved money even though the cost this year is still high. Next year, it's going to be the same story. Try to buy everything we can at the very best price and shipping rate that we can for my department. But those are still a little bit on the unknowns because I hear when salesmen come in and talk about nothing but extraordinarily higher prices. And so I'm still searching all the time to keep numbers down. But I think this is realistic, a little bit aggressive as far as the supplies that we have. But across the board, I think that a lot of these numbers are high percentages because the baseline is very small. I mean, if you think about taking $3,000 and putting $1,000 on it, it's quite a big percentage, but when you really look at the big picture, it's really just keeping the line item going with what's going on. Water, I think we've done better on water this year. I don't know what the end result's going to be. I don't control anything on water. We are still very efficient for the age of our system. The supplemental water is important because we don't water at night to the full need of the golf course. We always water under the need to replenish, which saves us money. So we spot water. And that's a very good practice to have healthier turf and lower your cost. And we do that every day. And I don't control the allocation, greenbelt allocation. That's where it ties in the golf course common areas. I don't put anything to that. That's not my number.
I think we'll open up for some questions. Don was looking very...
Mark, just a quick question. You know, we talked about drought tolerance and all of that, and I don't want to bring that up, but I'm just curious, on those areas that we have done, has the irrigation been shut off, those like whole Ninth Fairway and so forth?
We've reduced the water all the way down to 2 times a week, and we're running them for about 10 minutes. And so those plants are out 3 years old now, and they're getting very sustainable, self-sustainable. So we're constantly knocking those run times down. All on over on the executive course, they're established. We're shutting them down, and it's proving to help us.
Do you expect those to go off completely at some point?
I would say, I can't tell you when we're going to get water again, right? I mean, anytime. But I usually look at, if I feel we haven't gotten water or a source of water in 30 days, I'm going to hit them with a good deep water. I won't water them for 10 minutes. I'll probably double it or triple it. But what I'll try to do is deep water, drive those roots deeper, and have that resource, not have to use as much of the resource.
Is there a line between keeping those bushes trimmed nice? I know you just went through a bunch of areas and trimmed all those shrubs so far, versus leaving them natural. Would that save enough labor to possibly do that, or do you think it's going to upset residents?
Well, I know it'll affect residents. That's
That
for
was
sure.
Don Day, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, anytime you leave a plant in a natural state, it's got its own beauty. I don't think that's what the residents were thinking they were going to get. That is in a landscape contract for artistic maintenance. I do work with them very close and try to get things my way a little bit, but I'm not in control of it. I mean, I have a good working relationship with Monica Sanchez, but I don't feel there's enough attention to it. That's my opinion as to what it needs. And I'm not saying we have to spend more money at it. I think there's other ways to tackle this.
Seems to me that all we've talked about is cost, but, and you, Brian, I think talked about the utilization rate. The fertile ground, to me, is getting more golfers. And I would like, if it was me, I'd like to see a golf program that targets the newer residents, the younger golfer, the casual golfer, and a $500 pro forma of some sort of golf plan, annual plan, that's about $500 that brings in the newer golfer. I've seen other courses that have that. It's just discount golf, a free lesson, one free golf round, even a mentor program with the more, I don't know what you call it, professional golfer in the community, to bring more people on the golf course. Because as you've pointed out, you can't control the cost. But revenue, what does it cost to get a new golfer? That's nothing. Or it may cost something, but I think we need to get more golfers.
Well, like I said,
live on the ninth hole, and I see long periods of time with nobody on that, nobody there.
So if I could back up on that too. It would be more of a punch card program. So I know I got to look over there, but wait, annual pay at $500. No, I think it would be a number of play for the year for the people who are working, where they're not going to be able to pay the $2,500, which equals 66 plays per year. That's what you're paying if you pay per play versus an annual payer, correct? Yeah. Okay. So if it's 66, so if I work still, so I want to play 25 times. Is there a punch card that allows for a slight rebate or slight reduction of cost? Because I'm guaranteeing you income on 50 plays. So I think that would be that was somewhat the suggestion as well.
We ended that program in 2021, 2020. We had a punch card program. We had a 50 play and we had a 30 play. We found out that not enough people were utilizing the punch cards to keep it active. And with the programs that we were offering year-round, say the annual membership, they had several different ways you could pay for that. And like I said, it was those homeowners that were doing the math, whether, how much golf they played versus paying a daily fee, or if they pay as you go. Now, we do have a program for the people who only want to play on weekends or a couple times a month. It's called pay as you go. They can pay the $36 or $38 and pay as they go. We also, as far as attracting those new golfers, again, we have that Get Golf Ready program for anybody wanting to maybe think about taking up the game. It's $125. They get 5 lessons. He can't get much lower than that. And they get 5 basically 1-hour clinics with basically 8 to 10 other of their peers. And then at the end of the program, the whole idea is get golf ready. Now you are ready to be able to play golf on your own and make you get you prepared so that you don't feel like you're doing something wrong out on the golf course.
But to
That
your-
program has been very popular, and we've attracted, or we have converted, if you will, some of those members to regular players or even annual players. So it's been a very successful program. How do we increase, like I said, is there a reduced fee to attract somebody? Well, in order to, what we like to do is when a new homeowner comes in, we offer them, if they were wanting to purchase an annual membership and they've never been an annual member before, they can purchase an annual membership beginning November and for say if they're going to want to, they just moved in, they want to be a member, they can purchase an annual membership beginning November 1 for 2023, for the year 2023. They get that November and December of the previous, of 2022, free. So they get 14 months of golf for the price of 12. So we do offer those programs. Where do we go from there? I think it's just getting more people to utilize the golf course to get more golfers. And heck, I've been trying a lot of my ideas. I think the Get Golf Ready has been the most successful. But if anybody has any ideas of how you think you can attract homeowners to start to begin to golf, I am all ears.
Hey, Brian, have you had any, excuse me if I don't know it, the Get Golf Ready available on Saturdays and Sundays? Because if we do have a lot of 9-to-5ers,
Sure.
Monday through Friday, or that might be a way to get them prepared if their goal is to retire and become a golfer.
What we have found is we've offered several clinics on the weekend. We get low participation. And I think it's because there's a lot of things planned on the weekends that they go and they go to the, San Diego, or they go, and they do a weekend. And getting you would have 5 weekends in a row that you would need off in order to participate in this program. So it makes it real difficult. That's 5 weekends. Kind of like you ask anybody, are you willing to give up 5 weekends of not going anywhere to attend the class? That's what we found. I mean, that's not, there's no other reason other than low participation.
Got it, thanks.
Brian, all the golfers know when there's tournaments and activities coming on. They got that dialed in pretty well. But I'd never heard of that program before. How do we communicate with residents here? We have a Facebook page. We have Channel 97.
It's all being advertised on those media outlets.
There's only 1,600 people signed up on Good Day Sun Lake, so we're missing 4,500 people who had no idea, and those are probably the ones that you're trying to target, are they not?
Don, thank you for bringing that up. Let me just invite everybody who is not signed up on Good Day Sun Lakes to please do so. There's lots of good information there. Thank you.
It is. It's wonderful. Compared to a couple years ago, communication is significantly better, but it kind of runs along with the restaurant activities as well as what you're doing. We really need to kick up the marketing, I think. So everybody, whether they're on Channel 97 or not, Beverly, we need to let them know.
I agree. When you consider how many emails we had under the old website, and the problem is under the new website, we still have several, what I would say a few thousand that still have yet to sign up on the website. So now we have an issue with, we can't send the marketing material out to the old email addresses because we had to give them all up under the old website. We had to scratch it, the new website. That's why we push so hard for people to sign up under the new website, because that's why we have so few people that are on the new website as compared to the old website. But the old website we had for how many years? several years, and probably some of those emails, well, could say probably a lot of them were not any good anyway.
Maybe we go back to old school with posters and flyers.
Yeah, yeah. I agree, and we send out on Channel 97. Hernan is doing an excellent job. I don't know if he's here. With the Channel 97, updating it, making it actually look a lot better to where you turn it on and you're not falling asleep. He's got great graphics going around, keeps you interested. And I think that's the direction that I think we can reach a lot of community members, is making that channel even better. Because I've known several people that I've talked to that say, oh, I don't watch Channel 97, it's too boring, or they don't care to. And I said, well, watch it. We've got golf tips on there. We're doing, I don't know if you've seen me do some golf tips on the channel. We got Mark talking about superintendent practices that he's doing out there. So it's a lot of information other than just board meetings. So I think I had actually had somebody that said that they had watched it after I'd mentioned it, and they said it's completely different than it was a year ago.
And
So-
Don, to your point, there are flyers out, but most of your golf flyers are in your golf shops. So maybe we need to expand where we put the flyers.
And I think the board would entertain a variance to allow a billboard in the back of Don Day's house to advertise on the course.
As long as I get credit for it.
I'd like to turn to maintenance for a minute. Is all the maintenance done in-house, or do you have maintenance contracts on various parts of the equipment?
All of our maintenance for our equipment is done in-house. As far as maintenance on the landscaping areas, of course, we mentioned before, artistic maintenance has been contracted to do that. I contract out the lake services. Mainly what we're doing is lake skimming, taking the biomatter out, making sure that our chemical applications are on time and being done in a legal way. I've got the license for it. I oversee it, but what it really comes down to is having a skilled company that knows the aquatic natures of the way a live lake will transform into one full of weeds and bad growth and filamental algae versus knocking it down in the proper way without putting out tons of hard metals, coppers, and other things that really kill your lakes. And so these lakes are all relatively new in the last 6 years throughout the whole golf course. And these lakes are very healthy, very good. And the guy that we've got, I trust him. He's very good. We communicate twice a week. And so other than that, in the contract way of the golf course, everything else is done in-house.
So your heavy equipment, your mowers, your sprinkler systems, all of that is done in-house.
This is my skilled
Is there
labor
any
that
benefit
I
from-
just love to keep.
Is there any benefit from getting that done through
Yeah.
contracts outside?
I can tell you that the labor rate per hour, you couldn't afford it. $90 an hour for a piece of equipment. You know, I've got skilled mechanics doing that, not for one piece of equipment, but every piece of equipment. So we never know when one thing's going to break, one level of equipment. There's different levels. There's small equipment, there's hand equipment, there's large mowers. In those large mowers, there are electronics, hydraulics, wheel sharpening, cutting units. It's so many different facets of a piece of equipment. It's not your simple lawnmower. So you call these people out to do a job, and if it's not under warranty, they're charging you to drive out, to come to the door, open up the part, repair it, and then, of course...
But you're saying there's no benefit?
Pardon? I don't believe that... What I would like to see is anytime we can obtain new equipment that has an extended warranty, we do it, but not to the point where the machine is past its point of being efficient. So that is what's going on primarily every year. We looked at the reserves. We have deferred equipment. We try to get as much out of the equipment as we can and try to look at the cost of new equipment. It's going up. Simple aspect, fairway mower 3 years ago was $59,000. It's now 110 and higher. That's if you're getting a base model. And a base model is usually the amount of reels, blades, and the frequency of clip, the terrain motion of the tires so it doesn't tear. Those are all upgrades that, for the most part, I really have to look at to see whether or not it's going to be a benefit to us or just a high cost.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for golf course maintenance? We have two more
yes,
departments, two more departments to, go ahead.
Mark, you're paying, or you're not paying, but Artistic is doing all the landscaping for the drought-tolerant area, and you're doing the water. Shouldn't the same department manager be taking care of the water and maintaining the area?
Well, the irrigation system is tied to my central irrigation that's in my office.
Okay.
Okay, so I control water on all the plants and everything, all the grasses within the golf course, because I've got the central, and so I take care of that, all on my own. Because my knowledge of plants, ET, is based on a run time, so I separate that out. It's all part of my central, but I'm managing. I guess what you're asking me is the water on the golf course and in the landscape areas. Should it be done by Artistic rather than me, as far as the two separate areas?
Well, Artistic is maintaining that, and they're charging us $10,000 a month, I believe. Go ahead.
Well, they're not handling the water. I handle the water.
Okay.
But what their job is to maintain the areas, trim the bushes on a frequency level that it keeps them aesthetically pleasing, cleaning up the debris around. They also do the irrigation repairs, because that's a drip line and not a big irrigation head. So that's all inclusive in their agreement.
So one department manager should not be handling both of them.
I don't know that. I mean, I'm not going to, I've got the skill level to do both. I just think what it comes down to is there has to be boundaries when you do contracts, Harry, and I think the boundary there is the drought-tolerant areas that we've installed versus turf.
Thank you. Let's go on to recreation, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I'm going to have to let Birch go he's got a prior commitment. Okay. Yeah, recreation. So a couple of things before I let Cara speak. The budget, again, here for labor and benefits is expected to increase. Additional monitor is in this budget, a full-time monitor. Has been added to bring back staff level to pre-pandemic levels for the count. Recreation activities are now separated. So before, revenue and expense would be netted together. It really didn't give you a good ability to track the true cost of events. And so that's one thing Cara has done, is to break out the recreation costs there's a new line item in the budget for recreation revenue that you would see. That's where Cara's revenue from events happen. Her costs are now in her department. The line items for it, so there's a line item for, take it easy, Birch. There's a line item called Special Events Revenue. It's on the worksheet HOA Operations. It's the one that says New GL. And there's $43,250. That is a new revenue budget that has been, before those used to be netted together, costs netted against the expense. So you may lose the visual finding what is the true cost of the event. Did this event really make money or not? I know in the past, separate worksheets were done for each event. This just makes it a little cleaner so that from a 3,000-foot level, you can see overall our special events revenue compared to the activities where we're at. The line item for internet service was reduced to align to actual expenses. Cara had wanted the full 1,000 trilobite download. No, I'm just kidding. But there was an error in that budget. We've revised that. And then pool monitor services were eliminated in this budget. And now Cara will go into some of the details with her department.
Thank you, Chris. So in asking for an additional monitor, we took a look at the number of setups that were done in a day in 2018 versus 2022. And we picked the 7th of the month and the 15th of the month as just random days. And when we look at 2018, we did 15 setups per day. In 2018, we did 14 setups per day. And in 2022, we did 15 setups per day. So the number of setups per day have started to increase and are actually exceeding 2018 levels. So that's why we are requesting additional facility monitor to be able to transition from that change from pandemic days to now.
Do you have any idea what additional activities we're doing that would cause an additional two setups a day?
Well, we have more groups, and then also the recreation facilities are absorbing all of the committees and their setups as well. Those used to be held over at the administration office, and now they're held over here. So we
You
did
just want
that,
a
and then we're
5-word
also.
answer. No, I just kidding. I'm sorry. You want a 5-word answer to say why? That's it. Got it.
We're also seeing an increase in private parties, and that's just probably within the last 6 months. So people are getting out and about and doing more things. They're more comfortable in gathering in large groups. The other item was the activities. So what we did is we broke down the individual ticketed events that we're going to have. So the tribute bands, the concerts, the comedy nights, put those in their appropriate months, and then did a conservative estimate as to what the ticket price would be and the number of people that would attend that event based on past history to be able to come up with an estimated revenue for each one of those events. And then in terms of pool monitoring, that is also incorporated in having that 5th monitor, is that we would be able to absorb that summer pool monitoring with the staff that we currently have without having to hire any additional staff.
I have a question. On most of your special events, like you would have in the main ballroom here, do you lose money? Do you break even, or do you make money? And do we need to maybe consider raising the prices or lowering what we pay?
Correct. Our ticket prices in 2023 are anticipated to go up a little bit because the cost of entertainment is going up. A tribute band that I used to be able to get for $3,500 is now around $5,000. So our goal is to, with the conservative numbers I have, is to break even. But I know if we get a tribute band, and I'm saying we are only going to sell 300 tickets, in reality, it's probably going to be more around 4, 5. So that gives us a little cushion that if, maybe there's something going on, we're not overestimating ourselves.
So your goal on most events is to basically break even?
It's a little
Correct.
break even, a little
Yeah.
above. I think only one concert this year, one event.
One event
we
in.
didn't. And what was
we,
that?
It
one?
was the Led Zeppelin.
It was the first one.
It was the
yes.
first one that we had, was the only one that we didn't break even.
To clarify on the breaking even, is that breaking even on the actual vendor cost for bringing in the entertainment, or is that including your labor for your
That's
department?
including labor and any additional things, like some of them I have to
Decorations.
provide meals, and any decorations that we might do, that's all built into the cost of the event. So
And
breaking
you're,
even,
and
it
you're
covers all
basing it
that.
on a floating minimum?
Correct.
And then, of course, the goal is to get greater than that, and then we'll make
Correct,
a little bit
correct.
more percentage.
So we
Thank you.
can actually generate some revenue.
Any questions? We're waiting for you, Harry. There you go.
Is there any way of finding a different source or a different way of finding entertainment?
We use, are you talking about the tributes, or are you talking about the weekend music?
Yeah, Don, are you talking about like big concerts, like tribute band concerts, or are you talking about like weekend lounge entertainment?
Tribute and local, I guess I would have the same question.
The
for you.
tributes,
Come
no,
from all
we
over.
come all, we deal with managers for them all over
One
the country.
broker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For your weekend ones, yeah, we can always outsource depending on, who's willing to come in here. Bands from where I know currently we have some bands that drive from Orange County to come in here.
Okay.
Some from Riverside.
Thanks.
So the recreation activities is totally separate from what we have in the lounge section for?
Correct.
Okay. Who is tracking both for what it costs?
For the lounge?
So for lounge, the Thomas has a line item in his,
Yeah, I saw it for.
and that's the lounge music, and some of the times the veranda. I think you have.
Thomas is tracking, and especially for the Restaurant and Lounge Committee, Thomas is tracking which bands on which nights and what the revenue coming in. So that way we know, like Dawn said, you know, if somebody's not bringing in, we can go out and search and find others.
I think, too, it would be helpful for us. I'm sure you guys are doing a cost analysis, but I don't know if that's being shared with the board. It's not yet been shared with us, whether it be Restaurant Lounge Committee or FAC. And I think that's what would help us to understand some of how you guys make the decisions to use what you do and the programs that you move forward with. And the other part, as Don mentioned earlier, is the marketing part of it. If we can continue to expand on that to help support the events that you are doing, because they're great. What you do is amazing. What you put together, and we appreciate it, but we want to see it pay for itself.
Oh, most definitely.
And we want to help with that, and that's where the marketing can come in, and we want to be able to do that too. So if we can get the marketing analysis information from that, or the event analysis, you know, covers, costs, labor, all of that rolled into one, then we get a true picture of what it's costing. And I think that's not just for food events or band events, it's all the other things that you do manage as well.
Right, okay.
Chris, I have a question that you might be able to answer. Since AB5 came in, the subcontractor rule or independent contractor rule, did we immediately have an increase because of now having to pay an outside person? And I may be stepping onto the lounge stuff, which will be next week or
Let me
2
have my
weeks.
legal counsel on AB5.
Actually, Randy, no, we did not, because even prior to AB5, we were using a manager to book all the event or all the lounge music. So we didn't see a cost increase for that, other than bands wanting more because gas and traveling and everything else.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Recreation?
Yes, well, one question. Between draft 1 and draft 2, the budget went up about 34,000?
That was that monitor.
Okay.
Okay, ready. Moving on. I'm waiting for the Bob to say what.
We're ready for admin.
Okay,
Department
administration.
review.
Thank you, Cara. Major expense here, the budget for labor and labor-related costs expected to increase. Now, bad debt, as I alluded to earlier in my opening statement, bad debt and collection costs are expected to decrease. The plan, a line item for those is expected to decrease based on what is happening currently, where we're trending. Computer support services are expected to increase. This relates to the POS services and the association's IT services. As again, reiterating, there are for the POS system and the mobile app, there are costs related to that. And as we're doing more technology, we are utilizing more of the IT services of West Coast Network. Yes.
Under the computer support, we're going from 36,000 to 111,000. And you said part of that is going to do with the POS system support and credit card processing?
No, not the credit card processing, but there are fees related to Club Essentials. That's their customer support. It's like Dell. It's like you order a Dell computer and you have the support services. So any questions that or issues that are happening with the POS system, the third-party IT services do nothing with it, and they will tell you, we will not touch your POS system. You must go if there's a problem, a programming error or a printing error, you must go to that.
That's a 300% increase from 2022 to 2023. It's 36,000 to 111,000. Can you give us, prior to the next meeting, a breakdown of what's in that 111,000 and why it went up so high?
Yes, we can do that. As well as a reminder, we used to keep the club soft fees that for our prior POS system. That used to be under licenses and taxes. And I also stated in my opening presentation that we realigned it to computer support. But we can give you the detail for that.
Great.
Yes, I'd like to see that too, because I've got a real question as to what is under it. Does that include the website? Does that include other stuff?
So that is all part of the website. It's all in that, the fees, the mobile app, it's all in that.
The mobile app is very interesting because it really needs a end user review, because it doesn't work the same way as it does.
Yes, Howard, your concern, as well as Ken Johnson's, we actually have a meeting with them tomorrow morning to go over that. That's not the mobile app we're talking about. The mobile app we're talking about is the one that will launch once we have all the tablets and everything, and the wireless printers and wireless card readers. Once we have that, which I'm hoping by the end of this month, the app will allow you to download on your phone, iOS or Android, to where you can order food from the golf course, you can book your table in the restaurant, all that stuff. So that's the app we're referring to.
Yes, totally. So Dan, I'll give it to you, and then you can disperse it.
And then Chris, you mentioned now twice where you have moved line items from one category to another in the budget. Can you give us the net on those? So that when you move them, I understand there's movement. It makes sense sometimes to realign them, but we're still not getting the bottom number, whether it's an increase or decrease. It was done in golf as well.
Okay, I can give that number to you.
How close is the number that was in the draft 2 for the insurance premiums in terms of, you think it's going to go up even higher?
Yes, according to our broker, they're looking at an increase again. And that's just liability. We live in California. It's a litigious state. So not only D&O, which is the Director and Officers Insurance, the liability insurance, that is just unfortunate part of being a California business. Dan's going to hide under the table now, it looks like. So, hey, that's, so the next, credit card fees, the processing, we're planning to increase. Now, those were based on the Club Soft, our old systems processing. And Club Essentials has a lower rate, and I know Randy, we've been working with Randy on that as well. So that's going to be reevaluated, and that should have a positive impact on our budget as we reduce that line item.
What is the rate that we're paying now?
It ranges from 8 to 9%. And we're going to hit 3.5 to 4, or is it 3.3 to 3.5 is where we're going to
Will
go.
be the new one?
Yes.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Okay, so now, going forward, the Board and Finance Advisory Committee will continue to review and propose the proposed budget. I know you'll be asking not only the questions here, but I'm sure there are additional questions that will be asked, and we're expecting that. First Service staff will review line items related to third party. This is as I talked about earlier with the vendors and with banning city services, what changes are coming down. Any changes will be reflected in the draft 3 budget. That I'm waiting for the last questions and any other updates from the board on their direction, and then we will update that. Then the next workshop is planned for October 4th, 2023.
Bob, is there any chance we could have that other workshop sooner? It seems like we've got to have a workshop on the October 4th, and then I think, what is it, the 27th or 28th? We got to finalize the budget at the open session. That seems pretty short notice.
Well, I'm expecting that the FAC and the board are going to be working on some items in the meantime.
Yeah, we can have a board workshop, but as far as the major workshop, that's been set for October 4th from here in the main ballroom from 10 to 12. What I'd like to do now, if there's no more comments from FAC or from the board, go ahead.
Use your microphone, please.
Put it right next to your mouth.
On the labor cost, does that include the 8% management fee? On the labor cost, does that include the 8% management fee?
That includes that, yes.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions from the audience here. And Beverly will bring it around to anyone who wants to ask any questions.
I'm Ajit Desai. I want to thank you for providing the handouts. They're very useful. It's not on?
It's on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, all right. I will. Thank you very much for providing the handouts. They're very useful. Secondly, in the schedule, it said that no participation was allowed, and so you relaxed that rule. Thank you very much for doing that too. Two things I have. Firstly, regarding the presentation of the budget, normally in corporations you have the budget for next year compared to actuals for this year. Now, I don't know if this is, now what we are done here is comparing budget of next year to budget of this year. The problem is the budget of this year was prepared last year, and the actuals may be very different. Now, I know that when you prepare the budget for next year, you are also looking at actuals for this year. But when you present it to us, we have no way of realizing whether the budget for next year compares at all to actuals for this year, because the actuals may be very different from what was budgeted. Okay, so that's one. I mean, it's just a way of presentation. Secondly, I see that the assessment increase is about $14.50 for next year. That's what comes out of your budget. And I also see that the restaurant deficit amounts to almost $12. So essentially, if you were to eliminate the losses from the restaurant, you would essentially, eliminate the need for any assessment. And, we did a survey. People suggested many different things. We put that in a presentation with strategic elements. I think it is doable, The question is how you do it. And there are ways of doing it. I'm not sure I have the time out here, but I'd really like to meet with any board member who's interested to have a mechanism for doing that. But unless you have a task force or some group tasked with actually achieving it, I don't think you're going to get, a clean slate, meaning a restaurant operation with zero bottom line. And that's what's necessary to eliminate your assessments.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Ken Johnson, Birdie Drive. This is not a question, it's more of a comment or feedback. I think that the goal of $4 may be unrealistic. I think we need to really look at, and I don't see the long-term change in reserves. We need to be careful we're not shortchanging our reserves, and that we do the right things and not necessarily cut back just to meet the goal. I think that CPI inflation, it's going to stay the rest of the year down to 7-8%. I think it's going to be kind of steady next year. If we get it to 4 and 5, we'd be kind of lucky. So I think that you need to look at the costs that are inside the budget, and I like the discussion that was going on between everyone. I think if you're going to change services inside the budget, like getting rid of the street cleaning, people need to be aware of that. And if we could post the RFP, that's for the community services. I didn't see it on the website. It'd be nice because an RFP is supposed to identify the options of what you're going to get for the services so that community would understand what's going on. Again, I think the homeowners, like me, it's what you get for the buck. And I look at that, and I'd be very disappointed if we try to cut back just for a number. You should be able to explain what's going on. I see that, again, the discussions were excellent. I'm wearing a new golf shirt that I got because Brian did a golf sale of clubs, and I got $500, so that went into the kitty. And things that you talked about would be kind of good. But one thing that, in final review, is that please continue to look at things like restaurant and the questions. But the staff so far today was very good in presenting why they do things. I think that's critical in looking at, and you guys digging off the AFC. And again, technology and marketing and how you do things. There's people, I'm not on Facebook, so I'm not going to get my information on Facebook. I'm going to probably get it through an email blast or 97, so we need to look at the various means to how to communicate. And I think we're shortchanging the website and the technology, so we need to make sure that that dollars inside of that group is done correctly. Again, thank you for the job and being able to comment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to mention that, my name is Linda Spalding. I want to say, looking at the CPI index, I don't see that reflected in the budget, and it is at 8.5% currently. That's the cost of goods and services. If I ran my business by not increasing that 8.5% for my product, services, and ingredients, I would be bankrupt. I don't want to see Sun Lakes go bankrupt. I don't want to see Sun Lake start looking like an old folks' home. And if we do not put enough money in the budget, we're going to look like an old folks' home. We already look like that because we can't put water in the fountains at the gates. And I also want to bring up, your dues are not $336 a month. They're $278.89 a month. You have to take out the cable. That's your dues. And the rumor out there right now is that the FAC is thinking of canceling cable. You do that, you're going to have a problem on your hands. I think you are talking about community patrol, going to another company to lower the cost. What are we going to lose? Because you pay for what you get. And also, I just read that your utility bills, you're not putting enough money into the water. Banning's going to increase our water $5 per month in 2023. You're not even putting enough money in there to cover that. I think that's enough for this version.
Thank you very much.
Hi, yes, my name is Gail Martin. I'm a new member of this wonderful community. I have a very simple question, please. What does GCM stand for?
Golf course maintenance.
Golf course maintenance?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very
That's
much.
Mark Birchfield. That's the acronym we use.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's as opposed to golf course operations.
Anybody else? Last chance.
I want to thank, yes, Howard?
Yes. You mentioned that you are going to announce the budget on September 28th at the monthly meeting? Is
No.
that the plan?
No, I'll give an update. So that's the next open session. I'm going to give an update. Items from this meeting. Try not to repeat everything. Changes that have occurred. So within the next 2.5 weeks, what changes have occurred. So that will be an update to the community. There'll be a section on the open session for that.
So we're shooting for end of October then, finalize that?
Yeah, we still have to, as required under the Civil Code, that October 26th meeting, the board has to vote on the final product so that we can then finalize and send that out in our annual packet to the community.
Very good, thanks.
I have a question, just if I can ask, a general question. There was a supplement to the budget that was the cash flow. And I don't know, I doubt people all have that, but it shows that the available cash in, I guess, the Sun Lake's operating account decreases every month. It starts off at the beginning of the year at about $2 million and ends the year with $99,000. That's almost over a $2 million decrease. I just want to make sure I understand that.
So those are cases where members prepay their assessment, prepay golf.
So that's why January goes up?
That's why you have a huge amount, and then you amortize it over the rest of the year. That cash is utilized. So we get a huge inflow during the beginning, and then it trickles down.
Okay, so that's typical each year.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
We didn't talk about reserves. We have a little bit of a problem in that over the next 7 years, we are going to contribute to the reserve fund $17 million. Over that same time period, we're going to spend $23 million. It's really acute in 2023 and 2024, where we're going to have shortfalls of $2.4 million in 2023, and it's only because of the increase in the contribution, it's only going to be $863,000 in 2024. But we never ever are ahead over the next 7 years. And in fact, 27, 28, and 29, we're basically going to be $1 million short. So we're going to be exploring between now and the finalization of the budget how we can overcome that $6 million shortfall.
Any other comments?
I just want to say a couple things. There was talk about revenue, golf revenue, restaurant revenue, food and beverage altogether, of course. Food and beverage, if we can get it down to zero, that's ideal, like Ajit said. Sharon and I have talked about it a little bit. So that's going to be a goal. How we're going to get there, we're still working on that. So just being honest about it. But we're gonna hold departments to their budget as best as we possibly can. But on top of that, we've done some brainstorming recently as a board, along with the management team, and our goal is to try to find some ways to bring in some different revenue. And some of them are gonna, hopefully, if we install some of them, it's gonna be creative. We didn't get them going in time to budget them, but it would be a revenue with minimal expense, many of our items. So we're giving it a shot, that's for sure. Ron?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Just addressed Dan's concern, which is a big one, that we're going to have a big decrease in reserves over the next 7 years. I would encourage the board to re-review the reserve assessment program that last year's Finance Advisory Committee recommended, and our erstwhile law firm told us there were all kinds of reasons not to do it, or that it was going to be difficult. And I think by having the right law firm that can show us how to do it, and it's just a means of redefining or properly defining what the reserve assessment is going to do. And for those of you who may not remember, it's an assessment to new home buyers that other HOAs have been doing down in the Coachella Valley. And our proposal was that new homeowners would make a contribution to our reserves of 6 times the homeowners' monthly association dues, which would be approximately, forgotten the number, Ajit, you probably remember it was $500,000 or $600,000 a year. So I think that's a good one to review. It has no impact on cost to current homeowners, and the price of homes have gone up greatly, and that would be a very small percentage. And I'm positive there's a way to properly define that so it doesn't impact the current $950 social fee. So anyway, thank you.
Great suggestion.
Yes, I mean, I can comment on that. I moved from an Orange County adult community, and they called it an amenity fee, and it was $4,000 per person.
This is one of the things that we're looking into. So thank you for your comments, and I want to thank everybody for coming here today, for service, for developing all the budget information and presenting to us, all of the FAC members, the audience for their time and effort, energy, and interest. And I want to just mention that Lori couldn't make it today. She wanted to, but she was ill. She'll be with us at the next one on the 4th, hopefully. And Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the 4th.
I was just going to make a plug too for the Activities Day on the 24th. A lot of the committees will be represented there. They'll have tables there and opening up sign-ups for individuals who maybe want to join a committee here in our community, like the Restaurant Lounge, like the VAC. And again, I just want to remind folks out there that committee meetings are open to the homeowners. So instead of hearing the rumor mill, if you will, please come and hear firsthand what the BAC is doing, what the Restaurant Lounge Committee is doing. Have your voice heard and have an input in your community. We really welcome everybody to come and join. Thanks so much.
Were the handouts helpful?
Good.
Okay.
Meeting is